Up until now, it's been kind of difficult to put out a podcast. Well, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you why. First of all, it's free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. No joke, it's that easy. Third, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many, many more. And get this, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. You're listening to the Daily Business Podcast with your business coach, Mitch Alverson. This is the place for daily coaching because when you have a coach, you get better results. Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Hope you're doing well. So we've done it. We have absolutely made it to the last chapter of Business Made Simple by Donald Miller. So if you're just now joining us, we've been going through the book Business Made Simple by Don Miller. If you don't have the book, jump over to Amazon, get the book. Then you can go back to episode 1 or 2 where we start going through each of the daily entries. There are 60 different days of great, business wisdom in this book. So if you don't have the book, go grab it. But right now we're moving into chapter 11 on execution. And this simple chapter is going to give you the real, the high points of what you really need to get stuff done. I promise if you just do what's in this book, you'll get a lot more done than most people. Because clearly, in this short chapter on execution, you can't go really deep. But what I'm telling you from the book here will get you a long, long way. So we're going to talk throughout the rest of this week and I think into Monday of next week. But the steps of the Execution Made Simple framework, here they are. First, hold a launch meeting to launch a project or an initiative. So that's the very first one, is to actually hold a launch meeting. Okay. The second one is have a team member fill out a one-pager. Okay. So we'll go into a one-pager tomorrow, really kind of define what that is and how it helps us. And then the third one is hold weekly speed checks. So we'll talk about that, but weekly speed checks are short, check-in meetings that are meant to make sure everybody's on the same, page and doing what they're supposed to be doing. Number 4, keep score and measure your success. Number 5, celebrate your team's victories. So those sound pretty simple, right? But I promise you there's a lot of folks who aren't doing those things. And if you just instilled those things and really were consistent with those things, you would get a lot more stuff done. So today, let's talk about holding a launch meeting. So we hold the launch meeting for the project or the initiative or the campaign to really, put our stake in the ground and say, this is where we're going. This is our chance to be really clear with everybody on the team as to what the objective is and where we're going to go. Okay. So the launch meeting, it kind of, just works as a meeting to really make it the thing that it should be, the important thing that it should be. So here's some of the things. So the first thing you want to do at your launch meeting is to fill out the project scope worksheet. This is important, and you can find a free worksheet at executionmadesimple.com. But the 4 questions on the project worksheet are going to help you in these ways. Number 1, to set a clear view of success. Number 2, to assign the leaders, the people who are going to actually make this thing work. Number 3, identify the resources needed. So, in this sort of we used to call it a work breakdown list, where we would actually break out every single task that needed to be done. And then that would sort of prompt us to say, okay, well, what are we going to need here? Are we going to need a developer here? Are we going to need, a VA for this project? I mean, you can go on and on, right? And number 4, create a timeline with key milestones. So in a public place, display the timeline of when major milestones will be accomplished. So you get the benefit, right, of putting it in a public place, because then every people are really, really accountable. So I would say too, if you don't have some sort of project management tool, grab one, and the best one. There's a bunch of them, right? But I'm going to go ahead and give you the best one currently on the market that you can get for the price. It's the one that you'll actually use, right? There's so many. Monday.com, Asana, Notion. There's just a bunch. Pick the one that you like and will use, because at their simplest, level, they all do kind of the same things. So pick the one that you'll use, and then you'll be better off. So the key here with your launch meeting is to keep the fog and the fuzzy priorities at bay. Every person should know what part of the project they're directly responsible for, when it needs to happen, and why it matters. So clarity is such a big deal at this point for commitment from the team, right? So unless you're clear about what needs to be done in your launch meeting, who needs to do it and when, the project will fail. We used to use a tool called the 5W2H. And if you just Google 5W2H or 5W1H, you're going to see forms that you can use for who, what, where, when, why. That's the 5 W's. The H is how are we going to do it? And the second H is how much does it cost? So 5W1H leaves off the cost. If you want to know the cost, then add the 2H. So there you go. Hold your launch meeting to kick off your project, and you're going to be set in the right direction. Here's a sales answer from the Little Red Book of Sales Answers by Jeffrey Gitomer. How can I improve my creativity? There are 2 authors who have provided a foundation for my creative study: Edward de Bono and Michael Michalko. Start with Michalko's Thinker Toys, the easiest and most practical book on creativity ever written. Then progress to de Bono's 6 Thinking Hats. Here's the secret: read slowly, a page or 2 a day, maybe 1 chapter per week. And as you read a concept or strategy or technique, try it out. Try it out every day. This will give you a depth of understanding in your own real world. Book learning is useless without practical application. Select 5 areas of your sales skills or life skills in which you would like to be more creative. Maybe it's a cold call, or your voicemail, or follow-up, or how to say thank you. Maybe it's a birthday present for your kid. Apply the lessons you've learned from studying to these situations by trying different ideas, no matter how silly they may seem. They start out silly, they end up smart. Ask the guy trying to invent an X-ray machine that ended up being television. Seemed silly at the time. Here's what I do. Almost all of my customers have children or grandchildren. Instead of buying a traditional bottle of wine or booze, or giving them some silly corporate trinket, I give them children's books, books that have won awards and that have been signed by the author. For less than $30, I've made the most memorable impression possible on a human being. I got this idea by applying the principles of Michael Michalko's creative concept called Scamper. Now it's your turn. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Daily Business Podcast with Mitch Alverson. If you got time, please subscribe to the podcast and consider rating and reviewing the show. That way, other people will find us. By the way, I really love to hear from you guys, so please email me at mitch@3advisors.org with your feedback or questions. Thanks again, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Daily Business Podcast with Mitch Alverson.